and Craig Smoak.
We got to know Navy SEAL, U.S. Naval Academy graduate Clint Bruce at a Super Bowl, Wounded Warriors. He's been a friend of the show, spoken at a banquet of ours for honoring high school student athletes that are amazing. And Clint Bruce, Naval Academy linebacker, and also Navy Team SEAL Team 5, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio. How you been, man?
Oh, man, how are you guys?
We're doing great. It's always great to hear your voice. It's always great to have you on. And, of course, Army-Navy.
Yeah.
When I say Army-Navy, my father graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. Paul's dad served in the Army. Craig's grandfather, Naval Academy graduate. What does that mean to you?
Listen, what it means is you understand it. It means that y'all get the game. And it's been really fun to watch kind of your show grow since we've gotten to know each other. And so it's fun to talk about the Army-Navy game with you guys. And I think, especially in this day and age, hardly anybody can look at that game and not have it impact their family or resonate with their legacy in some shape, form, or fashion. So it's a special weekend.
What was your experience with it as a player? You know, going in, I know that game is something else than the results, but getting ready for that game, I can imagine, is probably a little nerve-wracking.
I grew up watching that game, and it was probably one of the biggest reasons I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. It was just, playing football here in Texas, big-time 5A high school football, and part of a great program. But for me, football was always kind of much bigger than that. Football was an opportunity to kind of test my words against another person's will and try to make myself count to others. And so for me, football was always about the intangibles. And that game just had all the intangibles of any other game times 10, especially as a young patriotic person. I remember I was fortunate. I played in all 4 games, all 4 years when I was at the Naval Academy. And there was a percentage of it where I took the game so seriously that it was another game. I mean, I never took any game less seriously than I took the Army-Navy game. But there were moments prior to the game where you would just be cognizant of the fact that this was different. This was one, watching it grow up with my father and our friends, and then 2, you look in the stands and you see decades of alumni, and the stands are huge, and you see presidents, and you see Secret Service, and you see all the formalities, and you do recognize it's certainly a different game.
I think, Clint, one of the most interesting things about Army-Navy is just that it's such a massive rivalry, but there's so much respect also involved in it. There's not a lot of respect sometimes in some of these rivalries, but
it's tremendous, yeah.
Can you?
It certainly is. It is one of these things. And, when I played at Navy, when I was a freshman, a guy who I played, he was my linebacker partner here at South Carolina High School. He played for West Point. So, that concept of brotherhood, I kind of rolled right into that off the high school football field and the college football field. So for me, there's an intensity there because you always want to beat your best friends and you always want to beat your brothers. And, Ryan and Makeda was a great quarterback here in Mesquite, and we played against each other in high school. And I think sometimes Texas athletes have different experiences because a lot of us played against each other in high school and ended up playing with and against each other at the service academies. Texas massively contributes to the service academy football. And, so it's a heated rivalry, but there's tremendous respect and deep affection for each other after the game and prior to.
Clint Bruce with us, Navy SEAL, U.S. Naval Academy linebacker as well. That was during a stretch when Navy football was still not quite what they ended up being. How frustrating was it during that time when you were on campus?
It was for the first, my first 2 years, we did not have successful seasons. My junior year, we began to kind of really rise. And then my senior year, both us and Army were ranked and played in both games. And we won 9 games, they won 10. And so it was a pretty intense game in 1996, our senior year. But for me, the game is always the same when you're playing it. Like once that kickoff starts, records don't matter. National implications don't matter. Bowl games, it's just like 75 opportunities per side to see who means what they say more. And that's what I always loved about it. It always reduces down to who means what they say and who can do what they plan to do when the chaos hits. And so for me, everything that's going on, the context kind of fades away during the game, and every game stays special.
Is there anything that compares to the pageantry of that game?
Not much, and especially as I've gotten older. As I've gotten older, and I watch it, and some of the things that people say, when you begin to live those things, it becomes more meaningful to you. Like I remember one of the things I said years ago when they asked me about the game. I said, you show me a game where everyone playing is willing to die for everybody watching, and I'll tell you that we have company in this pantheon of rivalries. And I meant that very seriously. And as 9/11 happened, and all of us started to lose our friends, the sincerity of that, and to know these guys that are no longer with us, that play the game the way they fought in battles, and in particular, tomorrow we just had a devastating loss in our community of a great linebacker, a great Navy football player, Brian Bourgeois, who's a commanding officer, SEAL teammate, and to know what that game meant to him and what it's always meant to him and to his family, and to be thinking about him and to have a full but heavy heart tomorrow watching the game. And that's who I've gotten to call my brothers, both for the last, since I played in the game to now. I mean, it is a massing of all these men who meant what they said and have continued to long since we hung up our helmets. And it's just special beyond words in so many ways.
Why does this game tend to go in streaks for either side? It's never too much back and forth year to year.
That's really, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm not a fan of the streaks. I always, you always want to beat Army, but you also have such respect for them that you want both teams to be competitive on a national landscape. So, I'm sure there's some statistic or some schematic that can influence it one way or the other. I mean, the one thing I would tell you that, both of our teams all our teams have tremendous talent. We're maybe different than other teams who don't have depth. And I think you have one or two players that are out, or one or two players that are influential and they're no longer available. That can shade the outcome of the game pretty intensely. But, it's hard to. I've never fully understood how that happens. Not just in the Army Navy game, but really in any sport. I've not always been able to figure that out.
I found an article. Bruce anchors the defense Navy. Rambunctious linebacker plays with old-fashioned passion. I'm not surprised. This is a quote from you. I guess I was always rambunctious. I was such a wild child, full of life. Every summer, my mother would send me to Bible school, Catholic, Baptist, or Jewish. It didn't matter.
Didn't matter. It was just, you got them for a week, man, and try to make them make better decisions. Incredibly diverse. Incredibly diverse.
Clint, if you allow me, that reminds me of an old joke. There was a little Jewish kid, and he was really he was kind of a holy terror, and his parents had him public school, military school, all these things everywhere he went. Just a terrible kid. I mean, just all the kind of problems. And so finally they put him in Catholic school, and overnight he's just a saint, an angel. And they go and talk to his teachers. Like, yeah, he's great, straight A's and all this stuff. And then his parents come to him and said, listen, we're very happy that you're finally doing well and finally doing good, but we just got to ask what happened. He goes, well, when I walked in and saw the King of the Jews nailed to the wall, I knew that they meant business.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good one.
Hey, you mentioned Commander Bourgeois, and you could tell that it. I mean, that's just yesterday when they announced that a couple of days ago during a training, and then a training thing. It hit you, didn't it? I mean, that's right there.
Well, I've known him. I've known him since he was. I've known him since he was a freshman at the Naval Academy, and just spoken to him, and just one of these guys that you're so proud to say, hey, that's my friend, and you know how he lived his life and how he led his men, and to be the commanding officer of a SEAL team. And can you imagine that, being a 22-year-old young frogman, and maybe never had a strong male role model in your life? You turn around in the back of the helicopter as the commanding officer of your entire SEAL team doing what you're about to do. And that's just who he was, who I've always known him to be as a young man playing football at the Naval Academy. Athletic, intense, but amazing teammate. And as a guy that commissioned in the surface warfare community and then just did everything he could, and he did it great. And he came over to the SEAL teams and it's just highly respected and highly revered. And it's I was telling my daughters this the other day, because they could tell this, I've lost listen, with what we do, you lose your friends. And my youngest said, Dad, are you sad? And I said, yeah, I'm sad. And I said, but I could be sad because I lost my friend, or I could be sad because I never knew such men. And I just got to tell you, if I can choose my sad, I'll choose this one. Cause you got to know them, and it's just this beautifully brutal blessing to have to call men like Boosh and friends and brothers, and yeah, so it's special. It's special in that, right? And Army has those stories too, and we all miss our friends, and this is but we also know that what we did was worth it. And it continued to be worth it in a play. I mean, that's one of the things I was always mindful of. I was always mindful of when I was playing. Like, I want to play in such a way that some young soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman could turn on some. If they showed some game on ESPN 15 years, 10 years after I played, they could see me in the fourth quarter, win or lose, and go, okay, I'll work with him. And the game gives you an opportunity to live out principles that life says you need to have. And that's what I've always loved about the game. The game tells you the truth if you listen to it. And that's what I love about the weight room. I mean, you can't talk the weights off the ground. You have to do the work. And it's a team sport. I mean, no one's good enough to win a game by themselves. And so all these intangibles about leadership in life, they play themselves out for 60 minutes on Saturday, and this is a very special Saturday where it'll happen. And our Navy football brotherhood and our Navy football family mourns Brian, and will be alongside his family for the rest of their days. And the only thing they want for is him, and the opportunity to every year remind them that he's remembered is a real privilege, a painful privilege, but a privilege.
How much did playing football help you in your time as a Navy SEAL?
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, I think, there's all these, we were just talking about this the other day, the concept of being able to reload and be able to kind of extract value out of a good or bad experience and put that knowledge to work instantly. Like, you just have to do that in the game. And I think the game gives you so many gifts that are applicable. The way I describe it is kind of like there's 4 maps that matter to me. There's the ball field, the battlefield, the boardroom, and the breakfast table. And for seasons of my life, the ball field and the battlefield were literal places, but now they mean to me what they mean to anybody else. And the ball field is take care of myself mentally and physically, and the battlefield is protect those whom God has entrusted to me. And the boardroom is provide for those who God has entrusted me. And the breakfast table is be a part of a family that loves me and that matters to others. And I used to think everything I didn't know about life I learned on the football field, and then I became a daddy, and I realized everything I didn't know about life I learned on the football field, and a husband and a leader. And the game just tells you the truth if you listen to it. And so to go from the ball field to the battlefield, I mean, I was so far ahead of the curve just because of what I'd learned from coaches on the game and realities of having a next man up and know your craft and commit yourself with a resolve to see something all the way through. I mean, competitive sports, and it teaches you that. And so it was an incredible blessing to me to kind of be almost raised in a leadership laboratory that is football, and it has borne itself in every conceivable way on the other maps I've lived on.
Clint, before we let you go, we've got to talk about Carry the Load and what you do there and some of the other things that you're involved in. We had a person on the chat room ask about veterans groups that you're involved with and advocacy there.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, America's Warrior Partnership is doing some amazing things out of Augusta, Georgia. Carry the Load. Listen, Stephen Holly, who's just like I look like Stephen Holly's security guard. I mean, Stephen's what you want a Naval Academy football player, Navy SEAL to look like. It's like, and he runs Carry the Load so well right now. I'm more of an invasion guy than an occupation guy. Like, once there's Excel spreadsheets and stuff, the law of diminishing returns really sets in on my gifts and abilities. But Carry the Load is amazing. I mean, there's just so many incredible organizations out there. One of the ones right here in Dallas that I love and have been a part of for a while, the Center for Brain Health, the Brain Performance Institute. What Jacob Schick's doing over there at the One Tribe Foundation. Man, there's just no shortage of amazing things going on. But Carry the Load is something I'm particularly proud of, and And what's neat about Carry the Load is Carry the Load really exists to benefit a portfolio of existing nonprofits that kind of come together to form a really powerful continuum. And so carrytheload.org is amazing. I'm proud of Stephen and Debbie Wright, Todd Boating, Aaron Rigby, and all the folks that run that, and still get to go and enjoy it. And it's just, you got to be smart to be a part of Carry the Load now. And we all know I'm pretty. I'm not smart, but I'm good looking. I mean, it is. I caught a glimpse of myself the other day, and I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, babe, I can turn it down, but I can't turn it off. It just is what it is." And she laughed almost as hard as y'all just did, which is a little bit hurtful, honestly.
Hey, Clint, this is a kind of a minor side story to the game, but, Under Armour and I guess Nike have been, coming up with these uniform concepts now the last several years, and it's just the coolest thing in the world, and most of us don't even know what we're looking at, really. They do a good job of explaining all of the tributes that they put.
Neat. And that's the things I probably enjoy the most is the level of effort that goes into the designing those things. Like you can like or dislike a particular design, one more or the other, but man, the storyboards that go into it and the effort that goes into it, and having known, some of the Task Force Dagger guys, and then obviously so many of my classmates are fighter pilots, and so for me, it's amazing because you know what went into it, and how they were consulted, and how both Nike and Under Armour just really need to get that right. And so that's what. So when I was growing up playing, we wore the patches, which always meant something, and but I love the thoughtfulness that goes into the whole thing, and it just makes me really proud, and it reminds me what I get to be a part of. And Brian Bourgeois' family is going to, that's part of his story too. And just thinking a lot about him.
We will. And Clint, thank you, man. Appreciate you. You are, we love you. We do, for everything you've done, what you've represented. I read the story about Hurricane Katrina. You and 10 special forces extracted 600 people in New Orleans during that time.
Yeah, well, I was a wealth manager at the time, and I just wasn't very good at that. So I was like, I'll just go down and pull people out of Katrina. This mutual fund's too hard. I can't do it. There's subtraction and division, and But no, I'm very fortunate, man. I'm like this kind of Forrest Gumpian kind of chubby dude up here in Dallas that's just blessed beyond all measure in a lot of ways.
We're blessed that we know you too, man. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Bruce, you there you go. I tell you, we ran into him. I think it was in San Francisco, wasn't it, Paul? When we first met him with some of the stuff at Wounded Warriors and what we started to do with our shows from the Radio Row, and then stayed in touch. And just an incredible time we could get with him, and appreciate the Navy and Clint Bruce for his time on Army Navy. And quite frankly, listen, I root for I root for Navy. That's it. Period. I got the goat. I got all the mask. I got all that because of my father. But it doesn't hurt my feelings when Army wins. It's just an incredible. I'd rather them not, because I love the game. When they say that there are men who are fighting for a first down or trying to intercept a pass, that within the months will be out fighting for this country, no other game can say that.
No, that's one of the reasons I wish they would. I wish the Army and Navy were in a Power 5 conference. Just selfishly, I think it'd be just good exposure for them. But I understand that's probably not the reality of the situation. But I'll watch Army and Navy play anybody that they're playing most of the time, just because I'm curious to see how the other team reacts to the triple option, or whatever you want to call the offense they're running, but the option that they run. Because Oklahoma had a whale of a time with them a couple years ago, because how do you practice it? How do you especially when you're, Oklahoma's got half the kids out of Texas, half the kids, California, all this stuff. How do you tell them, like, okay, here's what this is? And they're like, yeah, we've never seen somebody take a snap under center before. Line splits are 2 yards wider. The lines all right next to each other.
I think.
Who's this guy in front of the running back?
Yeah, no, it's hard to get ready for. And I still think to this day that I wish my favorite college football team had continued to run some form of the option. I understand that the game, they threw the ball more than people realized under Osborne. I just wish they would have continued to do that because that was their bread and butter. That was their recruiting, and there aren't many that run that kind of team, that kind of offense anymore. It is 4:30. Scott Drew